Hi. So, okay, at the end of March, I mentioned or recommended, I guess, that people pick this book up, the Set Boundaries, Find Peace book. And because of life, that life's for everybody, it literally has taken me this long to figure out exactly how I wanted to go about people being aware of how good this book is. And I decided, rather than posting a long, essay, I guess, almost, of my thoughts and things out of the book that I thought were really, really good, I thought I would just do a video, because if I'm honest and I'm a realist, if I did that, half of y'all wasn't gonna read all that. Y'all wasn't gonna read it. So maybe people will be more in tune if they hear me read certain things and then talk about it and ask questions, challenging questions, hopefully, that again you would actually apply. Again, realist here, so we'll just see how it goes. So anyway, so what I'm not gonna do is read this whole book. I'm not gonna do that. If you are wanting to really dive more into understanding the importance of setting boundaries, how to set boundaries, asking yourself questions about boundaries, then go pick up the book by Nedra Glover, Tawwab. It's a really good book. She is a licensed therapist. And you can even find her on Instagram. So get the book. But I do want to talk about some things, hopefully to influence people to actually get the book, or just to start working on healthy boundaries. So let me preface first. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I don't expect to be everybody's cup of tea. But I'm pretty straightforward. I try to be as honest as I possibly can. But I really want to do this because as a therapist myself, I really want to see people succeed, which I know is a cliche. But we live in a world where people are struggling a lot, and I'm not just talking about, doctors get sick, therapists struggle, like people, humans. If you live in this everyday world, there's gonna be some kind of challenge of sort. And so the reason I was like, I'm gonna start just recommending books that I feel are helpful, like real books that I feel are helpful, that have practical things that people can actually apply, is because I really want people to realize how they can really be proactive and intentional and consistent, which is really hard. Consistency is hard. To work to better themselves, their life in different areas. And I don't know. Some people may look at this, some people may not look at this. I don't know. Anyway, some of this stuff is really things that I also share with my clients, which is why I feel like this book is a really good book. So let's start. I'm gonna read this first section because I feel like it really is good, and it opens up a lot of questions that you can ask yourself. So anywho, because I can be very long-winded. Anyway, so what the heck are boundaries? Literally, that is the first chapter. Boundaries are the gateway to healthy relationships. Okay, and that's the little title. So now this is the therapist communicating her story or experience, okay? I feel overwhelmed, Kim said. Bearing her head in her hands, she had started seeing me, the therapist, 2 weeks after she had returned from her honeymoon. Newly married and excelling in her career, Kim prided herself on being the best at everything she did. But her worries about getting it all done had become all-consuming. She was depleted and dreaded getting out of bed in the morning. Any of y'all feel that? She not only was determined to be the best of herself, sounds like an overachiever, but she also always showed up as the quote-unquote best for others. Here's where you insert question mark to you, okay? The best for others, be the best friend, the best daughter, the best sister, the best co-worker, the best wife, the best husband, the best girlfriend, the best boyfriend. Now she wanted to be the best, in this her context, wife, and someday the best mother. Being the best for Kim meant always saying yes. Red flag number 2, I guess I would say. Saying no was mean. Saying no was selfish. Now, I stop here because that's a good area to ask yourself the questions. Number 1, do you feel like you always have to say yes? And if your answer to that is yes, then you ask yourself why. Why do I always have to say yes? Do I always have to say yes because I want people to be happy with me? I don't want people to be mad at me or angry at me or whatever those questions, your question may be, or your reason to the why may be. But it's an important question. This is a place in the book. I mean, the only thing that I wish she had did in this book was maybe put like an area for notes. But anyway, grab a notebook, because if that question is something you're willing to ask yourself, write down the answer to your why. Okay. Where did I stop at? Okay, she came to me, the therapist, hoping to figure out how to do more without feeling so exhausted. Stop number 2. I feel like even in my own practice, people can come to therapy, to any therapist, counselor, doesn't matter, with these unrealistic expectations, okay? So I don't know if y'all got that part, but she came to me hoping to figure out how to do more without feeling exhausted. Because, like right here, I'm gonna read it one more time, okay? Before my next client comes, I'm gonna have to stop and I'll come back. But anyway, she came to me hoping to figure out how to do more without feeling so exhausted. Does that sound realistic? She wanted to figure out how to do more things, how to add to her load without feeling exhausted. That's not realistic, but sometimes we do have clients that come, or people who come, and they really do have that mindset. I have a client I just started working with, and he literally was like, told me all of his stuff, and then at the end, after he spilled for about 25 to 30 minutes, how, now fix me. What? We don't fix. That's not what therapy is. But we do work to help you see the realities of your unhealthy expectations, because there's no way to not feel exhausted and add more stuff to your plate. Anyway, I'll digress. So on my couch, Kim went down the list of things that she had agreed to do for other people in the coming week. She insisted that her friend needed her help to move. Her co-worker would not be able to manage his project without her assistance, and Kim was very eager for a solution. She was trying to create more time to do all the things that she signed up for. So another little pause, go write down, if you got your little notebook, your list of things. Like, what are the list of things that you feel you have to get done in a week, not a month, not a year? Like, just focus on a week. For some of y'all, you could probably just list off a whole bunch of stuff in one day, but give that a try. As she rattled off everything she was trying to figure out, I asked her to pause, which is what I just asked y'all to do. I gently pointed out that it was impossible to create more time. She looked a little stunned at first. And then, don't worry, I said. I can help you lighten your load instead. From the look on her face, it seemed as though this approach had never occurred to her. I wasn't surprised. I met so many people, especially women, who give and give so much, only to feel exhausted and even depressed as a result. This is why we live in a culture of burnout. There are so many of us who definitely deal with burnout in different roles, whether it's work or family. I see this the most, if I'm honest, with single parents, specifically single moms, for many different reasons. To start, I encouraged Kim to make a list of everything she needed to do at work and home that week. So just think about your week. She already had her week completely mapped out. She already knew she was going to have that set up. She sketched a schedule for completing each task, and she quickly saw that there was simply not enough time to do all the things that she had planned. So I asked her, what do you really have to do, and what can you delegate? Now, pause here for just a minute, because delegation is something that is hard for a lot of people based off of the way they perceive themselves, and not being able to complete a task or saying that you can't do a certain thing sometimes makes people feel weak or incapable, or they feel less than, or they feel like people will judge them because they don't have the capacity to do certain things. So there's many reasons why some people struggle with delegating, which is just asking people, outsourcing. Who else can do this thing so that I can get these other things done? I see this being the hardest sometimes for single parents still, because it depends on what their support network looks like. It depends on how they have or have not been burned by delegating certain things out, and then people falling through. If I'm honest, I've heard that the most with single moms is I stopped asking people to do things because they would follow through. They wouldn't follow through, or they were wishy-washy, or they would say they would do something and then a few months later or so, they renege back on that. So they just stopped. And because they stopped, they just put it all back on themselves, because they don't feel like there's individuals that are reliable in their village. So I know delegating can be hard, but that's a whole nother thing for a whole nother time. But it's important to notate. Do you think your friend might be able to find someone else to help them move? She mulled it over and said yes, instead that she wanted to help. At that moment, I could see that Kim had an issue with setting boundaries, because she wanted to do it, around how much and how often she's willing to help others, and that this was contributing to her anxiety. She meant well, right? All she wanted to do was help people, but her level of willingness to help was impossible to sustain. She desperately needed to do less. When I mentioned delegating, Kim dismissed the idea immediately. She knew only one way to help others, and that was to say yes to doing it herself. Kim's refusal to say no had led her to the therapist's office and was the root of her worry, her stress, and the crippling anxiety. According to studies, anxiety is rising. Anxiety and depression are rising. And this was written, when was this book written? Let me see. I don't see the title. I don't see it, but I'll figure it out. This book was written a good little while ago, I believe. Where is it at? It's gotta be on here somewhere. Okay, so I don't see it, but 2021. So this was written in 2021. Copyright 2021. So we're now in 2026. I mean, and it's just risen even more so since then. Complicated relationships are among the leading causes of increasing rates of anxiety, and anxiety and depression are the two most common reasons people pursue therapy. The bulk of my clients are anxiety and depression. The bulk of my clients are relationship issues. The bulk of those issues come down to lack of boundaries and struggles with communication. So this is, I mean, so true. Anyway, just like Kim, people enter therapy when anxiety is starting to impact their daily life. And some people, because they don't know their own tellers, they sometimes wait to seek therapy when they are already depleted. I worked with Kim to unpack her need to be present for everyone. I helped her to see that saying no would give her time so that the time that she was seeking. Okay, anyway, the first thing is you gotta ask yourself, forget the other stuff, it's still important, but what is your definition of boundaries? If you do not have a working definition of boundaries, then you have to establish what boundaries are for you. Boundaries are an expectation, or expectations and needs that okay, so do I have on different clothes? Yes. Why? Because life. Anyway, so the last thing I left off was just the definition of boundaries. So you need to have a working definition of what boundaries are for you. So in this book, she talks about boundaries are expectations and needs that help you feel safe and comfortable in your relationships. Expectations in relationships help you to stay mentally, emotionally well. Learning when to say no and when to say yes is also an essential part of feeling comfortable when interacting with others. So here's the kicker. The kicker for me is, yes, number one, you need to be able to have a working definition of boundaries for you, okay? Everybody's level or definition of boundaries are different. Some people are more comfortable with certain things and some people aren't. So yours is yours. But what's important is signs that need to help, or signs that you need healthier boundaries, right? That's going to be the thing that you're going to have to really try to assess for yourself. In this section, it says Kim's ability to function was impacted by her constant replaying of her thoughts, planning, worrying about having enough time, dreading getting started, dreading doing certain things. She was stressed out, and because she was stressed out, she had a whole bunch of unhealthy boundaries. Let's see, there was one thing, if your sleep is being impaired, constant dread, like every time you think about doing something, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do it. Poor self-care, feeling or being overwhelmed, resenting people, avoiding people or things or situations, and other mental type issues. Those are common red flags of boundary issues. So I just said self-care. Self-care is so different for so many people, but just ask yourself, like, do I have really good self-care? Am I taking time to brush my teeth? I'm talking about little stuff. Brush my teeth, take a shower, eat something healthy, work out. Do I constantly feel overwhelmed? Do you feel resentful towards people? And that one, man, okay. Because it's not just like resentful, it is frustrated, like frustrated easy, irritable easy, annoyed easy, bitter, angry, just feeling angry all the time. I mean, those are signs that you need better boundaries. Okay, so remember this. Okay, you feel overwhelmed, feel resentful toward people for asking you for help or anything, asking you for anything. Avoiding phone calls or interactions with people who may ask you for something. Making comments about helping people and getting nothing in return. You feel burnt out. You frequently daydream about dropping everything and disappearing. I hear that statement so much. And, sometimes I will always dig deeper into that question because one, I have to make sure like you're not trying to take yourself out, right? Because if we're talking about like suicidal ideations or something to that extent, then that's a whole nother concern. But for the most part, my clients who are struggling with anxiety, functional anxiety, and depression, I hear this so much, this statement of just, they want to drop everything, they just want to not have to deal with stuff. They want to disappear. And it doesn't mean in that context that these people want to take their lives. But they're so overwhelmed and they don't know how to create better boundaries for themselves, emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, mental boundaries, that is their solution almost. I feel like we may hear it sometimes in cases where you hear like somebody disappeared and then they found the person like years later, but the person never came back. Almost in some cases, not all cases, so very small cases, I believe. Some people make a choice to just dip out and start over sometimes. And you have no time for yourself. If you can say yes to all of these things, feeling all these things, you need better boundaries, okay? So I'm not gonna go into more because like I said, I'm not gonna read this whole book. I really think everybody should get this book and a notebook and start writing stuff down. It's a really, really good book. Okay, I'll end with this part and then I may talk about a few other things at another time. But anyway, so the meaning of boundaries. Here's the meaning of boundaries, because some people don't understand boundaries. And yes, boundaries are for you, they're not for other people. And yes, some people, they're not gonna like your boundary. Matter of fact, your boundaries may make them feel so uncomfortable that they begin to avoid you, But the meaning of boundaries are that they are a safeguard to not overextend yourself. They are good self-care practices. They define the roles of a relationship to make sure certain relationships aren't like too dependent on each other. They communicate acceptable and unacceptable behaviors in relationships. They are parameters for knowing what to expect in a relationship. They are a way that you ask people to show up by upholding your needs. And I know that can kind of sound selfish, but it's not. Because again, we're trying to create the healthier dynamic. So the healthier dynamic of the person, then you're not going to uphold your needs unrealistically in a relationship. They are a way to communicate your needs to others, because guess what? It's your responsibility to communicate what you need to others. I mean, unless they are psychic and they can read your mind. Other than that, stop thinking people know what you need and what you want. Talk. Use your words. Now, at the same time, part of this is also discerning who those people are. Because some people, you can communicate what your needs are and it just be ignored. Those aren't the safe people. So, they are a way to create clarity for yourself, and they're a way for you to feel safe. So boundaries are important. And in this first chapter, it talks about porous, rigid, and healthy boundaries. Now this part is really good, but I don't want to keep talking. Anyway, okay, so porous, rigid, and healthy boundaries, okay? Porous boundaries are weak, they are poorly expressed, and are unintentionally harmful, okay? Porous boundaries are examples of oversharing, codependency, enmeshment. Don't know what enmeshment is? It is having absolutely no emotional separation between you and another person. Okay, that means y'all are just too involved for whatever reason. Inability to say no, people pleasing, dependency on feedback from others, paralyzing fear of being rejected, and accepting people's mistreatment. Those are some things that porous boundaries, bad boundaries, unhealthy, weak, poor boundaries look like. Saying yes to things that you don't want to. So it's that that slow, like, sure, no. Even with my kids, when I ask them certain things sometimes, and if their response is sure, I'm always like, nah. Sure is not a yes. A yes is a yes, and a no is a no. A sure is a you don't really want to, but you don't want to say no. So I even now try to teach them that is a very poor way to have a boundary or communicate something. Okay, loaning to people because you feel obligated to, or when you don't have the capacity to do so, but doing it anyway. And that's different than like giving, let's say, like tithing or giving to the poor or the needy or something like that. This is more so giving something begrudgingly, as if you feel like, I have to do this. I have to do this. Like, okay, I got an example. I have to do this because we're family. Who said that? I have to do this because we're neighbors. I mean, some things are nice to do, but you're not obligated to do anything. But you have to communicate that. Okay, rigid. At the other extreme, there's rigid boundaries, which involve building walls to keep others out as a way to keep yourself safe. But staying safe by locking yourself in is unhealthy and leads to a whole other set of problems. Whereas porous boundaries lead to unhealthy closeness, right? The enmeshment. Rigid boundaries are a self-protective mechanism meant to build distance. This typically comes from a fear of vulnerability or a history of being taken advantage of or hurt. People with rigid boundaries do not allow exceptions. They do not allow exceptions to their stringent rules, even when it would be healthy for them to do so. If a person with a rigid boundary says, "I never loan money to people," they never stray from that, even if a friend who isn't the type of borrower may be in a crisis. So a rigid boundary looks like never sharing, building walls, avoiding vulnerability, being emotionally unexpressive, cutting people out, having high expectations for others that are unrealistic, and forcing strict rules. Okay? Examples of some rigid boundaries would be saying no harshly as a way to discourage people from asking you for anything in the future. Having a rule that you never watch your sister's kids. That's just an example. Like I never do that. I never let people get in my car. I never let people do that. I just, whatever those rigid boundaries may be. Okay. And then the last one is healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries are possible when your past doesn't show up in your present interactions. Now that is key, because in order for your past to not show up in your present interactions, guess what you gotta do? You gotta work on your past, which most people don't wanna do. You got to work on the past. And I get it, it's hard. I even had to work on some of my past stuff. And I'm still a work in progress in certain areas. However, in order to create healthy boundaries, you have to not bring that past into your present interactions, okay? They require an awareness of your emotional, your mental, and your physical capacities, combined with clear communication, okay? Healthy boundaries look like being clear about your values, listening to your own opinion. Doesn't mean you're closed off from other people's opinions, but you are not so quick to let other people's opinions sway you. Sharing with others appropriately, because oversharing is, of course, like we mentioned earlier, it's a porous boundary. So you got to know the balance between why am I sharing this? Matter of fact, start asking yourself that question, because I even do that sometimes. I really do notice that I do that in certain environments or situations where I will overshare, and then I'm like, why are you oversharing? For what? What's the purpose? Why are you doing this? So ask yourself that question. Be aware of yourself. How are you communicating? Am I sharing stuff that's like, the people didn't need to know all this information? Because if you are doing that, then you want to dig a little deeper. Why am I doing that? What is that saying about me and how I feel about my boundaries? Having a healthy vulnerability with people who've earned your trust. Okay, that earning of trust. People don't realize that people should earn your trust, you know. People should earn your trust. I try to tell my children that everybody is not your friend. Everybody is not your friend. You need to be able to understand what your values are, understand their values, and then you want to examine the individuals who can earn that trust, or people that you feel you can trust, you know, because people are so quick to jump into friendships and relationships with individuals and then you get burned. But you get burned because, number one, again, you don't have healthy boundaries, but also you don't give people an opportunity to earn trust before you just give them access to everything. Being comfortable saying no. Okay, if you are someone who consistently says yes, here is your green flag from a licensed therapist. Start saying no. Just practice. Just practice. No. 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 Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Okay? And being comfortable hearing no without taking it personally. That's the other part. Some people can't take being told no. And sometimes you have to tell people, hey, if that doesn't work for you, then just say that doesn't work for you. Because that's okay. Like I know in some of my communications with people, I give people permission. Hey, if that doesn't work for you, let me know. That's fine. You can say no. I do this all the time, honestly, with my cousins. Sometimes when we may have like things going on with our children, and I'll be like, hey, you think you could do blah, 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 or drop this kid off here, or do this, or whatever. But if you can't, it's okay. Just tell me that you can't. Like, it's okay to say no. It's healthy for you to also be able to accept people's no and not take it personally. Like, dang, they don't like me no more, or da-da-da. No. They just don't have the capacity, and that's a healthy thing for them to be honest and say, oh, you know what, I'm not gonna be able to do that, I'm sorry. That's okay. Some examples. Well, I kind of gave you some examples, but I'll just read what she has here. Saying no without apologizing, because it's the healthiest choice for you at that moment. Stop saying I'm sorry for everything. That is not good. You don't have to apologize because you don't have the capacity. When you do have the capacity, then say yes. Just do that. Supporting people financially when appropriate, and when you can do so without causing financial harm to yourself. She really did hit on money a lot. I don't know that, people do get kind of funny when it comes to money. But, she's saying she's saying finances, but think about finances or any other aspect of your life. How can I support somebody without it causing any hurt, harm to myself? Let's see. So yeah, it's good. This book is very good. I could keep going, but I'm not. But those are good beginnings. So just go ahead and grab the book. It talks about defensiveness. It talks about ghosting, how to talk to people when they're being defensive, how to handle ghosting, acceptance, silent treatment, signs of an unhealthy relationship. I'm sure there are a lot of people that need to read that section. The book is good. It talks about areas where we commonly need boundaries: family, work, romance, friendships, technology, because everybody put their business online nowadays. And then it gives you like a little exercise at the end. Still doesn't have any like places to write notes. It's got a little like place right there, but I wish she had more of those places. Y'all, this is a good book. This is a good book. So the next section is the cost of not having healthy boundaries. And I may talk a little bit about that. there was one area that I was like, oh my gosh, now that part right there. Let me see. Oh, she talks about the 6 types of boundaries, which is important. What boundary violations look like. Identify and communicate your boundaries. Blurred lines of boundaries. Trauma and boundaries. Listen, we all got some traumas. And yes, everybody has some form of trauma. I feel like there's spectrums of trauma. So, talks about families, of course, relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, work, all those things. So, it's amazing. You guys need to pick up the book. Pick up the book.